I think it's better. I think the hook note helps to detract from Monopoly guy.
Tired.
Fair enough. Oh, hello everyone.
Hello, everybody who.
Tuning in for a late night stream.
Late night stream, sort of short notice. Sorry, everyone.
Never know when you're gonna get out of work,
True.
but can't resist that Dracula.
It's the blue for late.
The blue for lady is amazing. I'm sorry, not even the blue for lady anymore. The mystery is ruined. We found out it's Lucy.
Sorry about that. Was it a bummer for you?
That it wasn't Dracula in drag? A little bit. Chat open so I can see it. All right. Yeah, don't do that.
Ah, Melanie, you made it. Welcome.
I don't know. I mean, mukbang's a pretty big thing. Like, hey, some people might like their reading with a little eating.
Perhaps.
Gotta be looking forward to Blue Lady. 4 a.m. in Germany? Oh, man. Well, welcome from Germany.
Welcome from Germany. Hello, hello.
Are you waking up that early or did you stay up that late? What chapter were we on?
15, I think. I don't know. But look at the book.
No, we didn't make it to 15 already, did we?
Hi, Ren. Oh, I don't remember.
Well, Mika, good morning in that case. Oh, we were on 15. Okay. I was right. Why did I change the chapter?
Had
There we
no
go.
faith in me.
Yeah, I got nothing for that. That was exactly why. I'm sorry. I feel you. I used to have to wake up at 3:30 every morning for my job back in the day. I do not want to go back to that. Did it for like 2 years. I'm good on that. I like to wake up with the sun or after the sun.
Now that winter is starting, I will be waking up before.
Oh my god. You're Russian. I am excited because I keep saying it, but I'm pretty sure this is the chapter when Renfield does the thing. I've been escapes. And meets with someone. Wait, have you not read this?
Yeah, I have. Long time ago. Just,
But yeah, we started reading this, and I was like, I haven't read that much of this. We're up to chapter 15, and I've already read this far, and I didn't think I read this far. I thought I was only maybe made it to chapter 10. I've been saying, ooh, this is going to be a good chapter ever since 10. But this time for sure.
Yeah, you sure?
This is the one. Guaranteed.
Renfield action?
Oh, yeah. Well, real quick, I just started dropping frames. Why did we do that?
I don't know.
I think we're better now.
But it gives me one more chance to eat this last bite of peanut butter.
Well, let's start by close everything. Since you're not ready, I'll just start by closing everything that is unneeded for this.
I mean, I was almost ready. Trying to eat quickly.
And that I appreciate. This is past my bedtime.
Mine too. Abs.
Doing research. Stuff everywhere. Yeah, I probably don't need the Monopoly guy. Any of this?
Are we good now?
Yeah. Are you good?
I should be. Yeah.
Just been killing time because I couldn't even have like a back and forth with you while we were doing
I
this.
had a back and forth with the people.
Knock some stuff.
Oh no.
Oh.
Oh no.
I am so sorry.
That is rough. That sucks.
That sounds like the worst morning I could imagine.
I don't know. The other morning you were pretty cranky.
That would have been worse.
That was pretty bad. Also,
That's a cat.
what?
They were playing.
Those were there last.
They were still playing with them today.
Yeah, huh.
These cats, man, they gotta learn to pick up after themselves. But yeah, I am so sorry, Ren. Anyone want a cat? No, we're good actually, but thank you.
We have so many kitties. We do not need any more kitties now.
I'm hoping it wasn't on too long. Like the damage was minimal.
Same. Same. Okie dokie. I have now eaten a ridiculous amount of peanut butter and jelly.
Giving me kind of anxiety though, because Jackson, he refuses to drink from a water bowl. He only accepts fresh water from our filter on our tap. So the only time he drinks water is if we turn on the water for him, and he'll drink it straight from the faucet. So there have been like nights where I turn it on for him, and then I like brush my teeth, get ready for bed. And I usually turn it off before I go to bed, but there have been some nights where I forget to turn it off.
Yeah, I know.
So now I'm like, I can't have this. I'm going to be checking to make sure the stopper isn't in there or anything every time I turn it on now.
Bailey down there.
You are all over the basement.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
That is a bummer. I'm really sorry about that.
I mean, 1 inch. I mean, that sucks, but I mean, at least it's not high enough to really like reach any outlets or anything. But still, 1 inch on your entire basement,
Yeah.
man. Oh,
I mean, could have definitely been a lot worse, but yeah, that sucks. We're really sorry that happened. That's rough. Well, that's good. Damage is good. No damage to the floor or anything. The wall.
and also just getting the water out. It's gotta be a
Ugh.
pain in the butt.
You ever shovel water? Because I have.
Uh, yes, I have. Thank you.
Sucks.
Yeah, I know.
It sucks. Shoveling water sucks. It's so stupid.
This is why you just get a little electric pump. Call it a day.
Mm-hmm. Shop vac. Yep.
Or shop vac.
Oh, yeah. See, look, these are...
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's not that bad. When you said, like, you got bit by a sloth and it broke skin. Yeah. It'll be alright. Rub some dirt in it.
It hurt in the moment, let me tell you. It was not great. It really hurt. But yeah, it could have been worse.
100%. Alright. So are you ready?
I do have one more little Kit Kat bar, but I can eat it later.
Leave it for after the chapter.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Gotta get you your own little, like, control system.
Oh my god, is it really that hard to do this?
Yes.
Jeez.
I have to stretch all the way over here. Turn off my mic.
What a hard life he lives. I can... Alright, here we go. Long chapter, everyone. So buckle up. Chapter 15. Dr. Seward's Diary. Continued. For a while, sheer anger mastered me. It was as if he had during her life struck Lucy on the face. I smote the table hard and rose up as I said to him, "Dr. Van Helsing, are you mad?" He raised his head and looked at me, and somehow the tenderness of his face calmed me at once. "Would I were," he said. "Madness were easy to bear compared with truth like this. Oh, my friend, why, think you, did I go so far round? Why to take so long to tell you so simple a thing? Was it because I hate you and have hated you all my life? Was it because I wish to give you pain? Was it that I wanted now so late revenge for that time when you saved my life and from a fearful death? Ah, no." "Forgive me," said I. He went on, "My friend, it was because I wished to be gentle in the breaking to you, for I know you have loved that so sweet lady. But even yet I do not expect you to believe. It is so hard to accept at once any abstract truth, that we may doubt such to be possible when we have always believed the no of it. It is more hard still to accept so sad a concrete truth, and such a one as Miss Lucy. Tonight I go to prove it. Dare you to come with me?" This staggered me. A man does not like to prove such a truth. Byron excerpted from the category jealousy, and prove the very truth he must uphold. He saw my hesitation, and spoke. "The logic is simple. No madman's logic this time, jumping from tussock to tussock in the misty bog. If it be not true, then proof would be relief. At worst, it will not harm. If it be true, there is the dread. Yet very dread should help my cause, for in it is some need of belief. Come, I tell you what I propose. First, that we go off now and see the child in the hospital. Dr. Vincent of the North Hospital, where the papers say the child is a friend of mine, and I think of yours since you were in class at Amsterdam. He will let 2 scientists see his case, if he will not let 2 friends. We shall tell him nothing, but only that we wish to learn. And then, he took a key from his pocket and held it up. And then we spend the night, you and I, in the churchyard where Lucy lies. This is the key that locked the room. I had it from the coffin man to give to Arthur. My heart sank within me, for I felt that there was some fearful ordeal before us. I could do nothing, however, so I plucked up what heart I could find, and said that we had better hasten, as the afternoon was passing. We found the child awake. It had had a sleep and taken some food, and altogether was going on well. Dr. Vincent took the bandage from its throat and showed us the punctures. There was no mistaking the similarity to those that had been on Lucy's throat. They were smaller, and the edges looked fresher. That was all. We asked Vincent to what he attributed them, and he replied that it must have been a bite of some animal, perhaps a rat. But for his own part, he was inclined to think that it was one of the bats which are so numerous on the northern heights of London. Out of so many harmless ones, he said, there may be some wild specimen from the south of a more malignant species. Some sailor may have brought one home, and it managed to escape, or even from the zoological gardens a young one may have got loose, or one be bred there from a vampire. These things do occur, you know. Only 10 days ago a wolf got out, and was, I believe, traced up in this direction. For a week after, the children were playing nothing but Red Riding Hood on the hearth, in every alley in the place, until this Bloofer lady scare came along, since when it has been quite a gala time with them. Even this poor little mite, when he woke up today, asked the nurse if he might go away. When she asked him why he wanted to go, he said he wanted to play with the Bloofer lady. I hope, said Van Helsing, that when you are sending the child home, you will caution its parents to keep strict watch over it. These fancies to stray are most dangerous. And if the child were to remain out another night, it would probably be fatal. But in any case, I suppose you will not let it away for some days. Certainly not. Not for a week, at least. Longer if the wound is not healed. Our visit to the hospital took more time than we had reckoned on, and the sun had dipped down before we came out. When Van Helsing said how dark it was, he said, There is no hurry. It is more late than I thought. Come, let us seek somewhere that we may eat, and then we shall go on our way. We dined at Jack Straw's castle, along with a little crowd of bicyclists and others who were genially noisy. About 10 o'clock we started from the inn. It was then very dark, and the scattered lamps made the darkness greater when we were once outside their individual radius. The professor had evidently noted the road we were to go, for he went on unhesitatingly. But, as for me, I was in quite a mix-up as to locality. As we went further, we met fewer and fewer people, till at last we were somewhat surprised when we met even the patrol of horse police going their usual suburban round. At last we reached the wall of the churchyard, which we climbed over. With some little difficulty, for it was very dark, and the whole place seemed so strange to us, we found the western tomb. The professor took the key, opened the creaky door, and standing back, politely but quite unconsciously, motioned me to precede him. There was a delicious irony in the offer, in the courtliness of giving preference on such a ghastly occasion. My companion followed me quickly, and cautiously drew the door to, after carefully ascertaining that the lock was a falling and not a spring one. In the latter case we would have been in a bad plight. Then he fumbled in his bag, and taking out a matchbox and a piece of candle, proceeded to make a light. The tomb in the daytime, and when wreathed with fresh flowers, had looked grim and gruesome enough. But now, some days afterwards, when the flowers hung lank and dead, their whites turning to rust and their greens to browns, when the spider and the beetle had resumed their accustomed dominance, when time-discoloured stone and dust-encrusted mortar and rusty dank iron and tarnished brass and clouded silver plating gave back the feeble glimmer of a candle. The effect was more miserable and sordid than could have been imagined. It conveyed irresistibly the idea that life, animal life, was not the only thing which would pass away. Van Helsing went about his work systematically, holding his candle so that he could reach the coffin plates, and so holding it so that the sperm dropped in white patches which congealed as they touched the metal. He made assurance of Lucy's coffin. Another search in his bag, and he took out a turn screw. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "To open the coffin. You shall yet be convinced." Straightway he began to taking out the screws, and finally lifted off the lid, showing the casing of lead beneath. The sight was almost too much for me. It seemed to be as much an affront to the dead as it would have been to have stripped off her clothing in sleep whilst living. I actually took hold of his hand to stop him. He only said, "You shall see," and again, fumbling in his bag, took out a tiny fret saw. Striking the turn screw through the lead with a swift downward stab, which made me wince, he made a small hole, which was, however, big enough to admit the point of the saw. I had expected a rush of gas from the weak old corpse. We doctors, who have had to study our dangers, have to become accustomed to such things, and I drew back towards the door. But the professor never stopped for a moment. He sawed down a couple of feet along one side of the lead coffin, and then across, and then down the other side. Taking the edge of the loose flange, he bent it back towards the foot of the coffin, and holding up the candle into the aperture, motioned for me to look. I drew near and looked. The coffin was empty. It was certainly a surprise to me and gave me a considerable shock, but Van Helsing was unmoved. He was now more sure than ever of his ground, and so emboldened to proceed in his task. "Are you satisfied now, friend John?" he asked. I felt all the dogged argumentativeness of my nature awake within me as I answered, "I'm satisfied that Lucy's body is not in that coffin, but that only proves one thing." "And what is that, friend John?" "That it is not there." "That is good logic," he said, "so far as it goes. But how can you, account for its not being there?" "Perhaps a body snatcher," I suggested. "Some of the Undertaker's people may have stolen it." I felt that I was speaking folly, and yet it was the only real cause which I could suggest. The professor sighed. "Ah, well," he said, "we must have more proof. Come with me." He put on the coffin lid again, gathered up all his things and placed them in the bag, blew out the light and placed the candle also in the bag. We opened the door and went out. Behind us he closed the door and locked it. He handed me the key, saying, "Will you keep it? You had better be assured." I laughed. It was not a very cheerful laugh, I'm bound to say, as I motioned him to keep it. "A key is nothing," I said. "There may be duplicates, and anyhow it is not difficult to pick a lock of that kind." He said nothing but put the key in his pocket. Then he told me to watch at one side of the courtyard, whilst he would watch at the other. I took up my place behind a yew tree, and I saw his dark figure move until the intervening headstones and trees hid it from my sight. It was a lonely vigil. Just after I had taken my place, I heard a distant clock strike 12, and in time came 1 and 2. I was chilled and unnerved and angry with the professor for taking me on such an errand, and with myself for coming. It was too cold and too sleepy to be keenly observant, and not sleepy enough to betray my trust, so altogether I had a dreary, miserable time. Suddenly, as I turned around, I thought I saw something, like a white streak, moving between 2 dark yew trees at the side of the churchyard farthest from the tomb. At the same time, a dark mass moved from the professor's side of the ground and hurriedly went towards it. Then I moved too, but I had to go round headstones and railed off tombs, and I stumbled over graves. The sky was overcast, and somewhere far off an early cock crew. A little way off, beyond a line of scattered juniper trees, which marked the pathway to a church, a white, dim figure flitted in the direction of the tomb. The tomb itself was hidden by trees, and I could not see where the figure disappeared. I heard the rustle of actual movement where I had first seen the white figure, and coming over, found the professor holding in his arms a tiny child. When he saw me, he held it out to me and said, "Are you satisfied now?" No, I said in a way that I felt was aggressive. "Do you not see the child?" "Yes, it is a child, but who brought it here? And is it wounded?" I asked. "We shall see," said the professor, and with one impulse we took our way out of the churchyard, he carrying the sleeping child. When we got some distance away, we went into a clump of trees and struck a match and looked at the child's throat. It was without a scratch or scar of any kind. "Was I right?" I asked triumphantly. "We were just in time," said the professor thankfully. We had now to decide what we were to do with the child, and so consulted about it. If we were to take it to a police station, we should have to give some account of our movements during the night. At least, we should have had to make some statement as to how we'd come to find the child. So we finally decided that we would take it to the hearth, and when we heard a policeman coming, would leave it where he would not fail to find it. We would then seek our way home as quickly as we could. All fell out well. At the edge of Hampstead Heath, we heard a policeman's heavy tramp, and laying the child on the pathway, we waited and watched until he saw it as he flashed his lantern to and fro. We heard his exclamation of astonishment, and then we went away silently. By good chance we got a cab near the Spaniards, and drove to town. I cannot sleep so I make this entry, but I must try to get a few hours' sleep, as Van Helsing is to call for me at noon. He insists that I shall go with him on another expedition. "27th of September. It was 2 o'clock before we found a suitable opportunity for our attempt. The funeral held at noon was all completed, and the last stragglers of the mourners had taken themselves lazily away. When looking carefully from behind a clump of alder trees, we saw the sexton lock the gate after him. We knew then that we were safe till morning, did we desire it, but the professor told me that we should not want more than an hour at most. Again I felt that horrid sense of the reality of things, in which any effort of imagination seemed out of place, and I realized distinctly the perils of the law which we were incurring in our unhallowed work. Besides, I felt it was also useless. Outrageous as it was to open a leaden coffin to see if a woman dead nearly a week were really dead, it now seemed the height of folly to open the tomb again, when we knew, from the evidence of our own eyesight, that the coffin was empty. I shrugged my shoulders, however, and remained silent, for Van Helsing had a way of going on his own road, no matter who remonstrated. He took the key, opened the vault, and again courteously motioned me to proceed. The place was not so gruesome as last night, but oh, how unutterably mean-looking when the sunshine streamed in. Van Helsing walked over to Lucy's coffin, and I followed. He bent over and again forced back the leaden flange, and then a shock of surprise and dismay shot through me. There lay Lucy, seemingly just as we had seen her the night before her funeral. She was, if possible, more radiantly beautiful than ever, and I could not believe that she was dead. The lips were red, nay, redder than before, and on the cheeks was a delicate bloom. "Is this a juggle?" I said to him. "Are you convinced now?" said the professor in response, and as he spoke he put over his hand, and in a way that made me shudder, pulled back the dead lips and showed the white teeth. "See," he went on, "see, they are even sharper than before. With this, and this," and he touched one of the canine teeth and that below it, "the little children can be bitten. Are you of belief now, friend John? Once more argumentative hostility woke within me. I could not accept such an overwhelming idea as he suggested, so with an attempt to argue, of which I was even at the moment ashamed, I said, "She may have been placed here since last night." "Indeed. Is that so? And by whom?" "I do not know. Someone has done it." "And yet she has been dead 1 week. Most peoples in that time would not look so." I had no answer for this, so was silent. Van Helsing did not seem to notice my silence. At any rate, he showed neither chagrin nor triumph. He was looking intently at the face of the dead woman, raising the eyelids and looking at the eyes, and once more opening the lips and examining the teeth. Then he turned to me and said, There is one thing which is different from all recorded. Here is some dual life that is not as the common. She was bitten by the vampire when she was in a trance, sleepwalking. Oh, you start. You do not know that, friend John, but you shall know it all later. And in trance could he best come to take more blood. In trance she died, and in trance she is undead too. So it is that she differ from all other. Usually, when the undead sleep at home, he spoke as he spoke, he made a comprehensive sweep of his arm to designate what to a vampire was home. Their face show what they are. But this so sweet that was when she not undead. She go back to the nothings of the common dead. There is no malign there, see? And so it make it hard that I must kill her in her sleep. This turned my blood cold, and it began to dawn upon me that I was accepting Van Helsing's theories. But if she were really dead, what was there of terror in the idea of killing her? He looked up at me and evidently saw the change in my face, for he said almost joyously, "Ah, you believe now?" I answered, "Do not press me too hard all at once. I am willing to accept. How will you do this bloody work?" "I shall cut off her head and fill her mouth with garlic, and I shall drive a stake through her body." It made me shudder to think of so mutilating the body of the woman whom I had loved. And yet the feeling was not so strong as I had expected. I was indeed beginning to shudder at the presence of this being, this undead, as Van Helsing called it, and to loathe it. Is it possible that love is all subjective, or all objective? I waited a considerable time for Van Helsing to begin, but he stood as if wrapped in thought. Presently he closed the catch of his bag with a snap and said, "I have been thinking, and have made up my mind as to what is best. If I did simply follow my inclining, I would do now, at this moment, what is to be done. But there are other things to follow, and things that are 1,000 times more difficult, in that them we do not know. This is simple. She has yet no life taken, though that is of time, and to act now would to take danger from her forever. But then we may have to want Arthur, and how shall we tell him of this? If you, who saw the wounds on Lucy's throat, and saw the wounds so similar on the child at the hospital, if you, who saw the coffin empty last night, and full today with a woman who may not change, only to be more rose and more beautiful in a whole week after she die, if you know of this, and know of the white figure last night that brought the child to the churchyard, and yet of your own senses you did not believe, how then can I expect Arthur, who know none of these things, to believe? He doubted me when I took him from her kiss when she was dying. I know he has forgiven me, because in some mistaken idea I have done things that prevent him say goodbye as he ought. And he may think that in some more mistaken idea this woman was buried alive, and that in most mistake of all we have killed her." He will then argue back that it is we, mistaken ones, that have killed her by our ideas, and so he be much unhappy always. Yet he can never be sure, and that is the worst of all. And he will sometimes think that she he loved was buried alive, and that will paint his dreams with horrors of what she must have suffered. And again he will think that we may be right, and that his so beloved was, after all, an undead. No. I told him once, and since then I learn much. Now, since I know it is all true, 100,000 times more do I know that he must pass through the bitter waters to reach the sweet. He, poor fellow, must have 1 hour that will make the very face of heaven grow black to him. Then we can act for good all round and send him peace. My mind is made up. Let us go. You return home for tonight to your asylum and see that all be well. As for me, I shall spend the night here in the churchyard in my own way. Tomorrow night you will come to me to the Berkeley Hotel at 10 of the clock. I shall send for Arthur to come too, and also that so fine young man of America that gave his blood. Later we shall have work to do. I come with you so far as Piccadilly, and there dine, for I must be back here before the sunset. So we locked the tomb and came away, and got over the wall of the churchyard, which was not much of a task, and drove back to Piccadilly. Note left by Van Helsing in his portmanteau. Berkeley Hotel, directed to John Seward, M.D. Not delivered. 27th of September. Friend John, I write this in case anything should happen. I go alone to watch in the churchyard. It pleases me that the undead Miss Lucy shall not leave tonight, that so on the morrow night she may be more eager. Therefore I shall fix some things she like not, garlic and a crucifix, and so seal up the door of the tomb. She is young as undead, and will heed. Moreover, these are only to prevent her coming out. They may not prevail on her wanting to get in, for then the undead is desperate, and must find a line of least resistance, whatsoever it may be. I shall be at hand all the night from sunset till after the sunrise, and if there be aught that may be learned, I shall learn it. From Miss Lucy or from her, I have no fear. But that other to whom there is that she is undead, he have now the power to seek her tomb and find shelter. He is cunning, as I know from Mr. Jonathan, and from the way that all along he have fooled us when he played with us for Miss Lucy's life, and we lost. And many ways the undead are strong. He have always the strength in his hand of 20 men. Even we 4 who gave our strength to Miss Lucy is also all to him. Besides, he can summon his wolf, and I know not what. So if it be that he come thither on this night, he shall find me, but none other shall, until it be too late. But it may be that he will not attempt this place. There is no reason why he should. His hunting ground is more full of game than the churchyard where the undead woman sleep, and the one old man watch. Therefore I write this just in case. Take the papers that are with this, the diaries of Harker and the rest, and read them, and then find this great undead, and cut off his head, and burn his heart, or drive a stake through it, so that the world may rest from him. If it be so, farewell. Van Helsing. Dr. Seward's Diary. 28th of September. It is wonderful what a good night's sleep will do for one. Yesterday I was almost willing to accept Van Helsing's monstrous ideas, but now they seem to start out lurid before me as outrages on common sense. I have no doubt he believes it all. I wonder if his mind can have become in any way unhinged. Surely there must be some rational explanation of all these mysterious things. Is it possible that the professor can have done it himself? He is so abnormally clever that if he went off his head, he would carry out his intent with regard to some fixed idea in a wonderful way. I'm loath to think it, and it indeed would be almost as great a marvel as the other to find that Van Helsing was mad. But anyhow, I shall watch him carefully. I may get some light on the mystery. 29th of September, morning. Last night, at a little before 10 o'clock, Arthur and Quincy came into Van Helsing's room. He told us all that he wanted us to do, but especially addressing himself to Arthur, as if all our wills were centered in his. He began by saying that he hoped we would all come with him too, for, he said, there is a grave duty to be done here. You were doubtless surprised by my letter. This query was directly addressed to Lord Godalming. I was. It rather upset me for a bit. There's been so much trouble around my house of late that I could do without any more. I've been curious, too, as to what you mean. Quincy and I talked it over, but the more we talked, the more puzzled we got. Till now I can say for myself that I'm about up a tree as to any meaning about anything. Me too, said Quincy Morris laconically. Ah, said the professor. Then you are near the beginning, both of you, then friend John here, who has to go a long way back before he can even get so far as to begin. It was evident that he recognized my return to my old doubting frame of mind without my saying a word. Then, turning to the other two, he said with intense gravity, I want your permission to do what I think good this night. It is, I know, much to ask, and when you know what it is I propose to do, you will know, and only then how much. Therefore may I ask you that you promise me in the dark, so that afterwards, though you may be angry with me for a time, I must not disguise from myself the possibility that such may be. You shall not blame yourselves for anything. That's frank, anyhow, broke in Quincy. I'll answer for the professor. I don't quite see his drift, but I swear he's honest, and that's good enough for me. I thank you, sir, said Van Helsing proudly. I have done myself the honor of counting you one trusting friend, and such endorsement is dear to me. He held out a hand which Quincy took. Then Arthur spoke out. Dr. Van Helsing, I don't quite like to buy a pig in a poke, as they say in Scotland, and if it be anything in which my honour as a gentleman of my faith and a Christian is concerned, I cannot make such a promise. If you can assure me that what you intend does not violate either of these two, then I give my consent at once, though for the life of me I cannot understand what you are driving at. I accept your limitation, said Van Helsing, and all I ask of you is that if you feel it necessary to condemn any act of mine, you will first consider it well and be satisfied that it does not violate your reservations. Agreed, said Arthur. That is only fair. And now that the populars are over, may I ask what it is we are to do? I want you to come with me, and to come in secret, to the churchyard at Kingstead. Arthur's face fell, as he said in an amazed sort of way, Where Lucy is buried? The professor bowed. Arthur went on, And when there? And when there? To enter the tomb. Arthur stood up. Professor, are you in earnest, or is this some monstrous joke? Pardon me, I see that you are in earnest. He sat down again, but I could see that he was sat firmly and proudly, as one who is in his dignity. There was silence until he asked again, And when in the tomb? To open the coffin. This is too much, he said angrily, rising again. I am willing to be patient in all things that are reasonable, but in this desecration of the grave of one who... He fairly choked with indignation. The professor looked pityingly at him. If I could spare you one pang, my poor dear friend, he said, God knows I would. But this might our feet must tread in thorny paths, or later and forever, the feet you love must walk in paths of flame. Arthur looked up with white-set face and said, "Take care, sir, take care." "Would it not be well to hear what I have to say?" said Van Helsing, "and then you will at least know the limit of my purpose. Shall I go on?" "That's fair enough," broke in Morris. After a pause, Van Helsing went on, evidently with an effort. "Miss Lucy is dead, is it not so?" "Yes." "Then there can be no wrong to her. But if she be not dead—" Arthur jumped to his feet. "Good God!" he cried. "What do you mean? Has there been any mistake? Has she been buried alive?" He groaned in anguish that even hope could not soften. "I did not say she was alive, my child. I did not think it. I go no further than to say she might be undead." "Undead? Not alive? What do you mean? Is this all a nightmare, or what is it?" "There are mysteries which men can only guess at, which age by age they may solve only in part. Believe me, we are now on the verge of one, but I have not done. May I cut off the head of dead Miss Lucy?" "Heavens and earth, no!" cried Arthur in a storm of passion. "Not for the wide world will I consent to any mutilation of her dead body. Dr. Van Helsing, you try me too far. What have I done to you that you should torture me so? What did that poor sweet girl do that you should want to cast such dishonor on her grave? Are you mad to speak such things, or am I mad to listen to them? Don't dare to think more to such a desecration. I shall not give my consent to anything you do. I have a duty to do in protecting her grave from outrage, and by God I shall do it." Van Helsing rose up from where he had all the time been seated, and said gravely and sternly, "My Lord Godalming, I, too, have a duty to do. A duty to others. A duty to you. A duty to the dead. And by God, I shall do it. All I ask you now is that you come with me, that you look and listen, and if when later I make the same request, you do not be more eager for its fulfillment than even I am, then I shall do my duty, whatever it may seem to me. And then, to follow of your lordship's wishes, I shall hold myself at your disposal to render an account to you, when and where you will." His voice broke a little, and he went on with a voice of pity, full of pity. "But I beseech you, do not go forth in anger with me. In a long life of acts which were often not pleasant to do, and which sometimes did wring my heart, I have never had so heavy a task as now. Believe me, that if the time comes for you to change your mind towards me, one look from you will wipe all this away, all this so sad an hour, for I will do what a man can to save you from sorrow. Just think, for why should I give myself so much of labor and so much of sorrow? I have come here from my own land to do what I can of good, at the first to please my friend John, and then to help a sweet young lady, whom too I came to love. For her, I am ashamed to say so much, but I say it in kindness. I gave what you gave, the blood of my veins. I gave it. I, who was not, like you, her lover, but only her physician and her friend. I gave to her my nights and days, before death, after death. And if my death can do her good even now, when she is the dead undead, she shall have it freely." He said this with a very grave, sweet pride, and Arthur was much affected by it. He took the old man's head and said in a broken voice, "Oh, it is hard to think of it, and I cannot understand, but at least I shall go with you and wait." My God, I had to do that for you too.
There you go. My hands are full. Yeah. Oh, well, that's a tough sell from Van Helsing. Hey, I know you kind of loved her, but you see, and go with me on this, all right? We're going to cut her head off, stuff a bunch of garlic in her mouth, and then stab her in the heart with a stake. You in?
Yeah, it's tough. It's
Yeah, sure. Sounds reasonable.
that's a hard thing to go with there.
How would you react? Don't even answer. You'd probably be like, I'll just be sure.
My first response would be, why?
And Van Helsing, again, just in riddles, won't tell anyone. I mean, I guess, oh, she's a vampire would sound probably pretty crazy. Almost more crazy than let's chop her head off.
I think he wants to show them.
Yeah.
But there's not been a lot to see.
No, not really.
Although if I did look at a corpse a week after it had been a corpse and it still looked alive, I'd be like,
there's something up here.
this isn't right, man.
Why aren't you stinky? Oh, Dan
Yeah.
actually brought something up. Oh, yeah. Does a vampire have to drink only compatible blood? Or does being turned into a vampire make you able to digest any type? And maybe that's why Lucy was able to receive blood from 4 different people and not die. I like that theory. Because she was already in the process of turning into a vampire, blood types
Didn't matter.
don't affect her.
Possibly. That's a good thought.
All right, I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Yeah, basically, like, look, she's not in the coffin. Look, now she is. Do you believe? And Jon Stewart is like, no. I still think you're crazy.
Anyone could have just, taken her body out for a stroll. These things happen. Fine.
Those beans.
But yeah. Lucy. Lucy.
Lucy the Bloofer lady.
Apparently she really likes kids. What's up with that?
Pray.
I guess so. I don't know. What's your kid doing outside at that time?
This is like late Victorian era, Kids be
You're
running
right.
in the streets all the time.
They were coming home from work at this time.
Yeah. Lucy is like, I don't know, early 20s.
Yeah, she's supposed to be.
Like very early 20s, like I think like 21.
Yeah,
Even
like
20.
Just getting married off.
Yeah.
Anywhere from like 18 to 25, I think.
Yeah. I would say that's a fair bet.
Because I don't think they ever actually tell us. Because she's younger than Mina, right?
Like her and Mina like went to school together.
That's right. Yes.
So soft, sorry.
Getting distracted.
I am getting distracted. He's cute. Oh, look at them beans.
Late babysitter age. Yeah, maybe.
Governess. Yeah. Yeah. So basically this whole chapter was just Van Helsing trying to like get them to believe.
Yeah.
That was really all that happened. No Renfield time.
It'll happen.
I feel like that's all you're waiting for.
Well, that's like one of the last things I remember where I was. Well, I thought I didn't really read that much of this book so far, but apparently I'm basically done with it.
I mean, yeah. Also, that line about the sperm dripping.
Yeah, I thought you just like mispronounced something, honestly. I forgot about that.
Nope. I think it's sperm as in spermaceti from like.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning to, but at the same time, I thought maybe it was just.
Oh, Wikipedia says Lucy is 19.
Oh, there we go.
She thought she said the novel said it. I mean, maybe the novel did say it at the very beginning.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about it.
Okay.
But I just couldn't remember.
I could not remember either. That's why I was like, I don't think they said anything. I don't know. But there it is. Lucy is 19. There it is.
Do you think there is like a deeper meaning behind why she's always going after the children?
Like a deeper
Does it?
symbolic reason?
Yeah.
Probably.
Because it's always the women too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like a motherly thing.
Maybe it's a perversion of the instinct or something.
Maybe. They want vampire babies and that's how they get them. Little vamp childs.
I mean, when you think about like Victorian era, the Victorian era is get married, you have children, provide for them.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy.
And try to avoid eating bread with drywall in it.
Yes.
Big one there.
Yeah. And don't feed your kids baby bottles with borax in it.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Victorian food, man. Go down that rabbit hole sometime. Jesus Christ, I don't know why people romanticize
But at least they had
era.
At least they had, fresh running water through a bunch of lead pipes. Poorly kept lead
gas
pipes.
Lamps. So
Nothing wrong with gas lamp.
the Victorian era, like Lucy talks about like wanting to marry 3 different dudes. She steals children rather than provides for them. She's like a seductress. She was very like had these 3 dudes after her. Like it was very much talking about how, was taking pleasure in the fact that all these dudes wanted her and stuff, and it's very much just like a Bram Stoker kind of doing a subversion of Victorian women at the time. Women are supposed to just like be pure and not want to have sex at all and provide for their children and be loyal to their husband.
And apparently, no matter what, when you go evil, you look more beautiful. So watch out for the good-looking girls. Don't go for them. You gotta get the average ones.
Wow.
Well, I just noticed every time they talk about it.
Did you guys literally hear that?
The story says it. Every time they're like, this vampire lady's more beautiful than anyone I've seen.
You heard it here
and
first.
And then they said that Lucy was even more beautiful. So apparently, once you go bad, your looks get better.
You heard it here, folks. I'm just, I guess, pretty average.
I never said that. I will run this back, all right? We'll get a clip. I did not say that. Wow.
No one's coming to your defense.
Might be the hidden criticism towards the new women who wanted to have a career and rejected the material role or maternal role that was expected of them. 100%. That's definitely what Lucy is betraying or portraying. I guess when you look at it, maybe it's not that progressive because he's kind of saying like she's corrupted in that sense. She became a vampire.
I mean, you could. I think there's multiple ways to interpret it. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just very interesting.
I think it's
Just always.
I think it's the author exploring the idea of the expectations of the Victorian woman versus subverting that. And what happens if you are selfish and you put your selfish desires first? You know. I think you can definitely dig deeper into all that. Maybe I just can't because I'm tired. I don't know. But, like, that's just immediately what I thought of is, like, she's just the opposite of what a Victorian woman is supposed to be.
But then you have Mina, who is also kind of the opposite, and she's definitely not depicted as evil for it, you know? Although she kind of does it a little bit differently, you know.
She does.
She definitely like you said, you know, the new women who wanted a career. She definitely wanted like a career and stuff, but she did it in a way where it was like supporting her husband. You know?
Yeah.
Like she, you know, kind of has trying to get a career, but the career is
supporting
in the same
her
career is supporting the career of her husband.
I mean,
Like you said, Mina is a very strong woman role. So yeah, it's kind of hard to see like where Bram is going with like the women thing, but there's definitely something there.
I feel like if I was more,
maybe he's just trying to look at the whole spectrum of it and not really trying to say one thing or another, but it's like wanting these things doesn't necessarily make you evil.
Yeah.
You know, it's not one way or another, just people have different desires and that is just that's just
life.
Them. Yeah. Most beautiful or evil. You're a Slytherin. That's true. You are a Slytherin. Most evil of evils.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Are we really gonna have this discussion when your favorite character is the bad guy in everything?
They're the most interesting character.
And usually the most attractive. What?
I'm watching Little Man playing with a toy. I'm still trying to think about this women thing. I'm trying to think about what I want to say. I just can't think of it.
Also, Van Helsing just throwing around the word love quite a bit. Like, he knew Lucy for a week. Slow down, dude.
He definitely falls in love with everyone very quickly. I've known you for a day. You are my good friend.
I love you.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, okay. Thanks, guy.
He has
What
a big
was your
heart.
name again? He does. It's like, man, a little clingy. So.
I think Stoker is also playing with like the core complex a little bit. Like there's a lot going. I'm gonna have to think. When we stream again tomorrow, maybe I will have more thoughts. I just can't get my brain to now to really
Yeah, I don't know. I
other
guess
than come up with the comparisons between Lucy and the modern and the Victorian women of the era at that time.
fair enough. I don't know. I'm just noticing a lot with that, and I don't think I really noticed it the first time I read through the chapters. Like what a big emphasis the whole story kind of plays on that. How it's just a recurring thing.
The women.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by
And
the
like
same
you were
token,
saying,
the manly man.
the American man,
Yeah, the American man.
cowboy.
Yeah, but like the manliness of the men and how they must be strong and they. Stoker is also trying to kind of like tear down that idea that men are all manly and blah blah blah.
Maybe that's like Van Helsing, loving everyone. Men can love too.
Yeah, and be like emotional and all this stuff. And maybe Bram Stoker is trying to like kind of break down the Victorian stereotype of man must be. And it's like, no, actually, like Arthur cries, Van Helsing cries, all are. John Stewart is like the dude who is like, we must be strong, and oh, you're upset. Feel better, dude.
There, suck it up.
Yeah. Even Mina is like, Jonathan's gotta like get it together already. He is the man of the house.
I don't care if he just survived a dramatic ordeal with a vampire. He's got to get it together. We have a lot of responsibilities. We're rich now.
Yep. So I think it kind of goes both ways. And we're seeing that a little more with the men getting together to go keep in at Lucy again.
That's weird when you say it like that. But yes. Also, she's just asleep. Like, none of this wakes her up. Like we saw when Jonathan went down to Dracula, he opened it up and Dracula was just like, oh, hello, friend.
Dracula's like on another level, though. She's the newly undead.
Yeah. Still, getting used to her new sleep cycle, I guess.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
And like if she didn't get anything to eat that night, maybe more exhausted.
Yeah.
She is also a sleepwalker. That was like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So maybe she sleeps more soundly.
I wonder how many like parents read this book and freaked out and like saw their kids sleepwalking and tied them to the bed after that.
I don't know. Victorian lives for like poor kids was wild.
Oh yeah, I bet.
There's like Victorian pictures of 10-year-old street girls who are pregnant.
I gotta go to that. So
I'm
odd.
saying.
We're having a good time talking. We're all having a good time. And then this.
I'm just saying, children, like, their lives were, especially the poor ones, like, their parents worked, like, 12-hour days.
Minimum.
Yeah. Then
I'm pretty sure that the 8-hour workday wasn't even like a thing at this point. I'm pretty sure it was just you worked as long as the boss said you worked or you got fired.
Yeah, and then they would like go.
Or no, wasn't it like 16 hours?
I also
Like
think
they could only make you work 16-hour days.
but it also
You had to be able to sleep
yeah.
for 8.
But it also depended on like what the job was that you do, right?
Well, yeah.
But then you'd like go to your tiny little apartment thing that you shared with like 12 other people.
Yeah.
Just like Victorian London life really sounds like it was awful. Like I watched a series of documentaries about Victorian life in London and stuff, and it just sounded so shitty. It sounded so bad.
The
Like
way you're saying it, I mean, becoming a vampire doesn't sound too bad at this point. I'm kind of with Renfield. Like, yeah, Drac, what's up, man?
I mean, yeah. I don't know though. It was good if you had money. But even then, you'd like had to have like a lot of money. Like
Even then, like all the rich people, the only thing they got was they got to wear wigs so that they could shave their head and didn't get lice.
they weren't wearing wigs at this point.
No, I thought that was a Victorian
No,
era thing.
Victorian era was like the first like curling iron and stuff, but like they would like burn their hair off because the curling irons were not like that great.
It was kind of like the blood transfusions. It heated up to a temperature.
Yes, exactly.
What temperature? I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how it went. And like they had like the different
Heats up to
dyes.
165 degrees. Is that Fahrenheit? Is that Celsius? Who knows?
They had different like kinds of gowns had different dyes in them.
Mm.
And a lot of them were toxic.
Oh, that's like anything in the past. Are you kidding me?
But there were like something like I saw the breakdown of the average Victorian home, and there were like over 140 different things that could like kill you. That were just like everyday household things.
Yeah, but that's still happening to this day. Like, there's gonna be so much.
No, but the things are just wild things. It's not just like, oh yeah, there was a chemical in the whatever.
You know what I kind of want from the Victorian era that I think is really cool is that the uranium glass, because they used to make glass dishware.
Boric acid. That's what it is. Boric acid because they would put borax in baby formula. And sorry, I totally cut you off.
Yeah, you did. But that's awful. Regulations are good, 100%. I agree. I am good with only a certain amount of like rat feces being allowed in my food nowadays.
But it was something like they put the borax in the milk to give babies because it neutralized like oh, the bread. I know we've talked about the bread before. The drywall in the bread.
Oh yeah.
All
right, when all that
mustard was made more yellow by adding lead chromate.
You know, again, you're really selling this whole vampire thing.
Green tea contained Prussian blue, iron filings.
Gotta have your iron. I mean, iron deficiencies was like a real thing, though.
Because at the time it was believed that the baby formula, borax would purify the milk and would turn bad milk good. So the borax neutralized the pH of the milk. Symptoms are heartburn, vomiting, diarrhea, brain and kidney damage, and death.
Jesus, sounds like an antidepressant nowadays.
Borax was thought to be a bacteria-killing agent, but Brucella stayed in the milk, and it would give you bovine TB. You could get abscesses of the spine. The bones of the spine would become more fragile, causing them to collapse. If several vertebrae were compromised, the result is a severe deformity. Collapse of the spine shown there.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't no.
So, many children died.
That's in my brain now.
So I'm just saying that was like how much bread contains sawdust. Lots of it. All of it. I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, you know what? I'm with Lucy on this. Like, yeah, I think that them taking that kid back to the police was actually the cruelty here. Could have been over for him. But no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Victorian life just, like, God, sounds terrible.
When we say the good old days, we definitely don't mean Victorian.
Dangerous bathrooms.
Are we going to read another chapter?
Yeah, I mean, we can. Do we want to?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Hang on. I just want to.
I'm not gonna lie. Some of this stuff is really
about
grossing me out now.
I just want to read about the dangerous bathrooms.
No.
Wait. Killer staircases.
How did we even make it?
As a species?
Yes. Like, that should have just been.
Okay,
the
wait.
extinction.
The bathroom as we know it is a Victorian invention. But at first, it could be a dangerous place. I don't know why I'm laughing. Ah, no! Alright, hang on. Besides horrible cases of scalding in the bath, there are even reports that there were incidences of lavatories spontaneously exploding.
I've actually heard of that too. Because the sewers.
The reason this might have been possible was that flammable gases such as methane
would
and
build up in the sewers
hydrogen
and then
sulfide
it would combust.
emanating from human waste built up in the sewers and in early toilets could leak back into the home where they could theoretically be ignited by the naked flame of a candle. Changes to the toilets, beginning in the late 18th century and continuing into the Victorian era, sorted the problem of gas leaks.
That's why you have the U-bend in your toilets.
Oh my god. What?
You're going down a rabbit hole right now.
Radium used in makeup and condoms. Radium.
Again, I don't know how we made it through that era.
Anyway. Okay. Yes, you heard it here. Condoms. Let's see, how long is this? Because that chapter we looked at seemed like it was going to be forever. And that really wasn't that long, was it?
Gotta look up Radium Girls.
Yeah, Radium Girls. The Radium. I was just reading about the Radium Girls. They're like glow in the dark faces.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Also, radioactive things don't.
Or are you
actually
talking about the
glow,
movie?
But
Yeah, painting glow in the dark watches. Unaware of the dangers of working with. Yeah, it's a movie. Oh my god. Looks like Tyrion Lannister. Anyway. Enough about Victorian bad technology.
I'm gonna have nightmares tonight with everything you've shown me.
Oh, come on. The exploding toilets.
That was funny. That
The
was.
exploding toilets was great. Can you imagine just trying to poop? Kaboom.
uh.
I don't know how we made it.
So how do you lose his legs? He doesn't like to talk about it.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
One more chapter. Here we go. There it is.
Oop, there it is.
I thought you said poop. I am. I am overtired. I'm sorry, everyone. I am overtired. Okay. But I can still read, so let us see what is going to happen with all these strong men. Okay. Sir. Chapter 16. Dr. Seward's Diary. Continued. It was just a quarter before 12 o'clock when we got into the churchyard over the low wall. The night was dark, with occasional gleams of moonlight between the rents of the heavy clouds that scudded across the sky. We all kept somehow close together, with Van Helsing slightly in front as he led the way. When we had come close to the tomb, I looked well at Arthur, for I feared that the proximity to a place laden with so sorrowful a memory would upset him, but he bore himself well. I took it that very mystery of the proceeding was in some way a counteractant to his grief. The professor unlocked the door, and seeing a natural hesitation amongst us for various reasons, solved the difficulty by entering first himself. The rest of us followed, and he closed the door. He then lit a dark lantern and pointed to the coffin. Arthur stepped forward hesitatingly. Van Helsing said to me, "You were with me here yesterday. Was the body of Miss Lucy in the coffin?" "It was." The professor turned to the rest, saying, "You hear, and yet there is no one who does not believe with me." He took his screwdriver and again took off the lid of the coffin. Arthur looked on, very pale but silent. When the lid was removed, he stepped forward. He evidently did not know that there was a leaden coffin, or at any rate had not thought of it. When he saw the rent in the lead, the blood rushed to his face for an instant, but as quickly fell away again, so that he remained a ghastly whiteness. He was still silent. Van Helsing forced back the leaden flange, and we all looked in and recoiled. The coffin was empty. For several minutes no one spoke. The silence was broken by Quincy Morris. "Professor, I answered for you. Your word is all I want. I wouldn't ask such a thing ordinarily. I wouldn't so dishonor you as to imply a doubt. But this is a mystery that goes beyond any honor or dishonor. Is this your doing?" I swear to you by all that I hold sacred, that I have not removed nor touched her. What happened was this. 2 nights ago, my friend Seward and I came here. With good purpose, believe me. I opened that coffin, which was then sealed up, and we found it, as now, empty. We then waited and saw something white come through the trees. The next day we came here in daytime, and she lay there. She not, friend John? Yes. That night we were just in time. One more so small child was missing, and we find it, thank God, unharmed amongst the graves. Yesterday I came here before sundown, for at sundown the undead can move. I waited here all the night till the sun rose, but I saw nothing. It was most probable that it was because I laid over the clamps of those doors garlic, which the undead cannot bear, and other things which they shun. Last night there was no exodus. So tonight before the sundown, I took away my garlic and other things. And so it is we find the coffin empty. But bear with me. So far there is much that is strange. Wait you with me outside, unseen and unheard, and things much stranger are yet to be. So, he shut the dark side of his lantern. Now to the outside. He opened the door and we filed out, coming last and locking the door behind him. Oh, but it seemed fresh and pure in the night air after the terror of the vault. How sweet it was to see the clouds race by, and the passing gleams of the moonlight between the scudding clouds crossing and passing, like the gladness and sorrow of a man's life. How sweet it was to breathe the fresh air that had no taint of death and decay. How humanizing to see the red lighting of the sky beyond the hill, and to hear far away the muffled roar that marks the life of a great city. Each in his own way was solemn and overcome. Arthur was silent and was, I could see, trying to grasp the purpose and the inner meaning of the mystery. I was myself tolerably patient, and half inclined again to throw aside doubt, and to accept Van Helsing's conclusions. Quincy Morris was phlegmatic in a way of a man who accepts all things, and accepts them in the spirit of cool bravery, with hazard of all he has to stake. Not being able to smoke, he cut himself a good-sized plug of tobacco and began to chew. As to Van Helsing, he was employed in a definite way. First he took from his bag a mass of what looked like thin wafer-like biscuit, which was carefully rolled up in a white napkin. Next he took out a double handful of some whitish stuff, like dough or putty. He crumbled the wafer up fine and worked it into the mass between his hands. Then he took, and rolling it into thin strips, began to lay them into the crevices between the door and its setting in the tomb. I was somewhat puzzled by this, and being close, asked him what it was he was doing. Arthur and Quincy drew near also, as they too were curious. He answered, "I am closing the tomb, so that the undead may not enter." "And is that stuff you put there gonna do it?" asked Quincy. "Great Scott, is this a game?" "It is." "And is that what you are using?" This time the question was asked by Arthur. Van Helsing reverently lifted his hat as he answered, "The host. I have brought it from Amsterdam. I have an indulgence." It was an answer that appalled the most skeptical of us, and we felt individually that in the presence of such earnest purpose as the Professor's, a purpose which would thus use the to him most sacred of things, it was impossible to distrust. In respectful silence we took the places assigned to us close round the tomb. But hidden from the sight of anyone approaching, I pitied the others, especially Arthur. I'd myself been apprenticed by my former visits to this watching horror, and yet I, who had up to an hour ago repudiated the proofs, felt my heart sink within me. Never did tombs look so ghastly white. Never did cypress or yew or juniper seem the embodiment of funeral gloom. Never did tree or grass wave or rustle so ominously. Never did bough creak so mysteriously. And never did the faraway howling of dogs send such a woeful presage through the night. There was a long spell of silence, a big, aching void, and then from the professor a keen tss. He pointed, and far down the avenue of yews we saw a white figure advance, a dim white figure which held something dark at its breast. The figure stopped, and at the moment a ray of moonlight fell upon the masses of driving clouds, and showed in startling prominence a dark-haired woman, dressed in the cerements of the grave. We could not see the face, for it was bent down over what we saw to be a fair-haired child. There was a pause, and a sharp little cry, such as a child gives in sleep, or a dog as it lies before the fire and dreams. We were starting forward, but the professor's warning hand, seen by us as he stood behind a yew tree, kept us back. And then as we looked, the white figure moved forwards again. It was now near enough for us to see clearly, and the moonlight still held. My own heart grew cold as ice, and I could hear the gasp of Arthur as we recognized the features of Lucy Westenra. Lucy Westenra, but yet somehow changed. The sweetness was turned to adamantine, heartless cruelty, and the purity to voluptuous wantonness. Van Helsing stepped out, and, obedient to his gesture, we all advanced too. The four of us ranged in a line before the door of the tomb. Van Helsing raised his lantern and drew the slide. By the concentrated light that fell on Lucy's face, we could see that the lips were crimson with fresh blood, and that the stream had trickled over her chin and stained the purity of her lawn death-robe. We shuddered with horror. I could see by the tremulous light that even Van Helsing's iron nerve had failed. Arthur was next to me, and if I had not seized his arm and held him up, he would have fallen. When Lucy, I call that thing that was before us Lucy because it bore her shape, saw us, she drew back with an angry snarl, such as a cat gives when taken unawares. But then her eyes ranged over us. Lucy's eyes in form and colour, but Lucy's eyes unclean and full of hellfire, instead of the pure, gentle orbs we knew. At that moment the remnant of my love passed into hate and loathing. Had she then to be killed, I would have done it with savage delight. As she looked, her eyes blazed with unholy light, and the face became wreathed with a voluptuous smile. Oh God, how it made me shudder to see it. With a careless motion she flung to the ground, callous as a devil, the child that up to now she'd clutched strenuously to her breast, growling over it as a dog growls over a bone. The child gave a sharp cry and lay there moaning. There was a cold-bloodedness in the act which wrung a groan from Arthur. When she advanced to him with outstretched arms and a wanton smile, he fell back and hid his face in his hands. She still advanced, however, with a languorous, voluptuous grace, and said, "Come to me, Arthur. Leave those others and come to me. My arms are hungry for you. Come and we can rest together. Come, my husband. Come." There was something diabolically sweet in her tones, something of the tingling of glass when struck, which rang through the brains even of us who heard the words addressed to another. As for Arthur, he seemed under a spell. Moving his hands from his face, he opened wide his arms. She was leaping for them, when Van Helsing sprang forward and held between them his little golden crucifix. She recoiled from it, and with a suddenly distorted face, full of rage, dashed past him as if to enter the tomb. When within a foot or two of the door, however, she stopped, as if arrested by some irresistible force. Then she turned, and her face was shown in the clear burst of moonlight and by the lamp, which had now no quiver from Van Helsing's iron nerves. Never did I see such baffled malice on a face, and never, I trust, shall ever be seen again by mortal eyes. The beautiful colour became livid, the eyes seemed to throw out sparks of hellfire, the brows were wrinkled as though the folds of the flesh were the coils of Medusa's snakes, and the lovely blood-stained mouth grew to an open square, as in the passion masks of the Greeks and Japanese. If ever a face meant death, if looks could kill, we saw it at that moment. And so for full half a minute, which seemed an eternity, she remained between the lifted crucifix and the sacred closing of her means of entry. Van Helsing broke the silence by asking Arthur, "Answer me, oh my friend. Am I to proceed in my work?" Arthur threw himself on his knees and hid his face in his hands as he answered, Do as you will, my friend. Do as you will. There can be no horror like this ever any more. And he groaned in spirit. Quincy and I simultaneously moved towards him and took his arms. We could hear the click of the closing lantern as Van Helsing held it down. Coming close to the tomb, he began to remove from the chinks some of the sacred emblem which he had placed there. We all looked on in horrified amazement as we saw, when he stood back, the woman, with a corporeal body as real as that moment as her own, pass in through the interstice where scarce a knife blade could have gone. We all felt a glad sense of relief when we saw the professor calmly restoring the strings of putty to the edges of the door. When this was done, he lifted the child and said, "Come now, my friends. We can do no more till tomorrow. There is a funeral at noon, so here we shall all come before long after that. The friends of the dead will all be gone by 2, and when the sexton locks the gate, we shall remain. Then there is no more to do, but not like this of tonight. As for this little one, he is not much harm, and by tomorrow night he shall be well. We shall leave him where the police will find him, as on the other night, and then go home." Coming close to Arthur, he said, "My friend Arthur, you have had a sore trial, but after, when you look back, you will see how it was necessary. You are now in the bitter waters, my friend. By this time tomorrow you will, please God, have passed them, and have drunk of the sweet waters, so do not mourn overmuch. Till then, I shall not ask you to forgive me." Arthur and Quincy came home with me, and we tried to cheer each other on the way. We had left the child in safety, and we tired, so we all slept with more or less reality of sleep. "29th of September, night. A little before 12 o'clock, we 3, Arthur, Quincy, Morris, and myself, called for the professor. It was odd to notice that by common consent we had all put on black clothes. Of course, Arthur wore black, for he was deep in mourning, but the rest of us wore it by instinct. We got to the churchyard by 1:30, and strolled about, keeping out of official observation, so that when the grave diggers had completed their task, and the sexton, under the belief that everyone had gone, had locked the gate, we had the place all to ourselves. Van Helsing, instead of his little black bag, had with him a long leather one, something like a cricketing bag. It was manifestly of fair weight. When we were alone and heard the last of the footsteps die out up the road, we silently, and as if by ordered intention, followed the professor to the tomb. He unlocked the door and we entered, closing it behind us. Then he took from his bag the lantern, which he lit, in also 2 wax candles which, when lighted, he struck by melting their own ends on other coffins, so that they might give light sufficient to work by. When he again lifted the lid of Lucy's coffin, we all looked, Arthur trembling like an aspen, and saw that the body lay there in all its death beauty. But there was no love in my own heart, nothing but loathing for the foul thing which had taken Lucy's shape without her soul. I could see even Arthur's face grow hard as he looked. Presently he said to Van Helsing, "Is this really Lucy's body, or only a demon in her shape?" "It is her body, and yet not it. But wait a while, and you'll all see her as she was, and is." She seemed like a nightmare of Lucy as she lay there, the pointed teeth, the blood-stained voluptuous mouth, which it made one shudder to see, the whole carnal and unspiritual appearance, seeming like a devilish mockery of Lucy's sweet purity. Van Helsing, with his usual methodicalness, began taking the various contents of his bag and placing them ready for use. First he took out a soldering iron and some plumbing solder, and then a small oil lamp which gave out, when lit, in a corner of the tomb, gas which burned at fierce heat with a blue flame. then his operating knives, which he placed to hand, and last a round wooden stake, some 2.5 or 3 inches thick, and about 3 feet long. One end of it was hardened by charring in the fire, and was sharpened to a fine point. With this stake came a heavy hammer, such as in households is used in the coal cellar for breaking the lumps. To me, a doctor's preparations for work of any kind are stimulating and bracing, but the effect of these things on both Arthur and Quincy was to cause them a sort of consternation. They both, however, kept their courage and remained silent and quiet. When all was ready, Van Helsing said, "Before we do anything, let me tell you this. It is out of the lore and experience of the ancients, and of all those who have studied the powers of the undead. When they become such, there comes with the change of the curse of immortality. They cannot die, but must go on, age after age, adding new victims and multiplying the evils of the world. For all that die from the preying of the undead becomes themselves undead, and prey on their kind. And so the circle goes on ever widening, like as the ripples from a stone thrown into water. Friend Arthur, if you had met that kiss which you know of before poor Lucy died, or again last night when you opened your arms to her, you would in time, when you had died, have become Nosferatu, as they call it in Eastern Europe, and would all time make more of those undeads, so that so have fill us with horror. The career of this so unhappy dear lady is just begun. Those children whose blood she suck are not as yet so much the worse, for if she live on undead, more and more they lose their blood, and by her power over them they come to her, and so she draw their blood with that so wicked mouth. But if she die in truth, then all cease. The tiny wounds of the throat disappear, and they go back to their place, unknowing ever of what has been. But of the most blessed of all, when this now undead be made to rest as true dead, then the soul of the poor lady, whom we all love, shall again be free. Instead of working wickedness by night and growing more debased in the assimilating of it by day, she shall take her place with the other angels. So that, my friend, it will be a blessed hand for her that shall strike the blow that sets her free. To this I am willing, but is there none amongst us who has a better right? Will it be no joy to think of hereafter in the silence of the night when we sleep is not, it was my hand that sent her to the stars. It was the hand of him that loved her best, the hand of all she would herself have chosen, had it been to her to choose. Tell me if there be such a one among us." We all looked at Arthur. He saw, too, that we all did, the infinite kindness which suggested that his should be the hand which would restore Lucy to us as a holy and not unholy memory. He stepped forward and said bravely, though his hand trembled and his face was as pale as snow, "My true friend, from the bottom of my broken heart I thank you. Tell me what I am to do, and I shall not falter." Van Helsing laid a hand on his shoulder and said, "Brave lad, a moment's courage and it is done. This stake must be driven through her. It will be a fearful ordeal. Be not deceived in that, but it will be only a short time, and then you will rejoice more than your pain was great. For this grim tomb you will emerge as though you tread on air. But you must not falter when once you have begun. Only think that we, your true friends, are round you, and that we pray for you all the time." "Go on," Arthur hoarsely. "Tell me what I am to do." "Take the stake in your left hand, ready to place the point over the heart, and the hammer in your right. Then when we begin our prayer for the dead, I shall read him. I have here the book, and the others which shall follow. Strike in God's name, so that all may be well with the dead that we love, and the undead pass away." Arthur took the stake and the hammer, and when once his mind was set on action, his hands never trembled, nor even quivered. Van Helsing opened his missal and began to read, and Quincy and I followed as well as we could. Arthur placed the point over the heart, and as I looked I could see its dint in the white flesh. Then he struck with all his might. The thing in the coffin writhed, and a hideous blood-curdling screech came from the opened red lips. The body shook and quivered and twisted in wild contortions. The sharp white teeth champed together till the lips were cut and the mouth was smeared with a crimson foam. But Arthur never faltered. He looked like a figure of Thor as his untrembling arm rose and fell, driving deeper and deeper the mercy-bearing stake, whilst the blood from the pierced heart welled and spurted up round it. His face was set, and high duty seemed to shine through it. The sight of it gave us courage, so that our voices seemed to ring through the little vault. And the writhing and quivering of the body became less, and the teeth seemed to champ, and the face to quiver. Finally it lay still. The terrible task was over. The hammer fell from Arthur's hand. He reeled and would have fallen had we not caught him. The great drops of sweat sprang from his forehead, and his breath came in broken gasps. It had indeed been an awful strain on him, and had he not been forced to his task by more than human considerations, he could have never gone through with it. For a few minutes we were so taken up with him that we did not look towards the coffin. When we did, however, a murmur of startled surprise ran from one to the other of us. We gazed so eagerly, and Arthur rose, for he had been seated on the ground, and came and looked too. And then a glad, strange light broke over his face, and dispelled altogether the gloom of horror that lay upon it. There in the coffin lay no longer the foul thing which we had so dreaded and grown to hate, that the work of her destruction was yielded as a privilege to the one best entitled to it, but Lucy as we had seen her in life, with her face of unequalled sweetness and purity. True that there were there, as we had seen them in life, the traces of care and pain and waste, but these were all dear to us, for they had marked her truth to what we knew. One and all we felt that the holy calm that lay like sunshine over the wasted face and form was only an earthly token and symbol of the calm that was to reign forever. Van Helsing came and laid his hand on Arthur's shoulder and said to him, "And now, Arthur, my friend, dear lad, am I not forgiven?" The reaction of the terrible strain came as he took the old man's hand in his, and raising it to his lips, pressed it and said, "Forgiven? Bless you that you have given my dear one her soul again, and me peace." He put his hands on the professor's shoulder, and laying his head on his breast, cried for a while silently, while we stood unmoving. When he raised his head, Van Helsing said to him, "And now, my child, you may kiss her. Kiss her dead lips, if you will, as she would have you do, if for her to choose. For she is not a grinning devil now, not any more a foul thing for all eternity. No longer she is the devil's undead. She is God's true dead, whose soul is with him." Arthur bent and kissed her, and then we sent him and Quincy out of the tomb. The professor and I sawed the top off the stake, leaving the point of it in the body. Then we cut off the head and filled the mouth with garlic. We soldered up the leaden coffin, screwed on the coffin lid, and gathering up our belongings came away. When the professor locked the door, he gave the key to Arthur. Outside the air was sweet, the sun shone and the birds sang, and it seemed as if all nature were tuned to a different pitch. There was gladness and mirth and peace everywhere, for we were at rest on ourselves on one account, and we were glad, though it was with a tempered joy. Before we moved away, Van Helsing said, "Now, my friends, one step of our work is done, one the most harrowing to ourselves. But there remains a greater task. To find out the author of all our sorrow, of all this our sorrow, and to stamp him out. I have clues which we can follow, but it is a long task, and a difficult, and there is danger in it, and pain. Shall you not all help me? We have learned to believe, all of us, is it not so? And since so, do we not believe our duty? Yes. And do we not promise to go on to the bitter end? Each in turn we shook his hand, and the promise was made. Then said the professor as we moved off, 2 nights hence you shall meet with me and dine together at the 7 of the clock with friend John. I shall entreat 2 others, 2 that you know not as yet, and I shall be ready for all our work to show and our plans unfold. Friend John, you come with me home, for I have much to consult about, and you can help me. Tonight I leave for Amsterdam, but shall return tomorrow night, and then begins our great quest. But first I shall have much to say, so that you may know what is to do and to dread. Then our promise shall be made to each other anew. But there is a terrible task before us, and once our feet are on the plowshare, we must not draw back.
All right, good time to stop because I just noticed we were dropping frames there. Like crazy.
Oh, yeah, Dan is having issues, or was having issues. I don't know if that's... Ugh. But yeah, that was the chapter.
And now the pact is made. They will face the Dark Lord.
Yes.
And put an end to this.
Reign of terror and evil.
Yeah, I don't know. It still confuses me. We drop frames, but we're streaming at 12,000 kilobits per second. So why?
I don't know.
It says the connection's bad. You're streaming at the exact bit rate you should be streaming at.
But your connection is bad.
But we'll drop all the frames. Screw you.
I don't know.
Only happens with YouTube.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know
Either
if
way,
anyone is still in the chat. Dan, good night.
no sense crying over spilt milk.
Bram Stoker literally uses the word voluptuous like 1,000 times.
Hold on. Oh no, we're not. We're no longer there.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's done.
Oh, the stream just stopped.
And now it's...
What?
So let's see if it starts up again.
It just stopped it?
I don't know because it says it's live, but nothing's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. YouTube doing maintenance? What's going on?
I don't know. 2 watching. There are 2 people watching right now.
No, there. It for some reason in the studio
It's just
says
not
that
showing
we're not
it.
streaming, but we are. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well.
All right, YouTube. Whatever you want to do. Well, let me leave this one open then.
Okay. That's not confusing at all for any. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, he uses the word voluptuous
Yes,
so many times.
that he does.
And she is He is no longer pure, wanton.
That's what I was saying. You get voluptuous, you get good looking, you're no longer like pure. You're no longer good.
Terrible.
Not my words, that's Bram Stoker.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know. They've killed Lucy. That's what's happened. Everyone believes. Everyone knows about the vampires now.
Undead don't like mosquitoes. Mosquitoes don't like, or the undead don't like garlic. Mosquitoes don't like garlic. Mosquitoes are undead.
The logic fits.
Yep. I mean, these mosquitoes are bloodsuckers.
Makes sense. The just voluptuous over and over again. The blood staining the white gown.
Mm-hmm.
All that.
Well, I mean, I feel like that was some good imagery, though, with the blood staining the white gown,
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
you know, here was his bride to be, you know, in white with blood all over. I mean,
tainted. Yeah, the purity has been corrupted. For sure. For sure.
no, no, yeah, all that stuff we were talking about really comes full circle in this one.
Yeah.
He kind of puts it right there, all out there, in your face.
It's very much in your face. I also thought.
And now the men have to save the day.
Yep. Now the men.
The big strong men. The manly men. The men who sometimes cry.
The men who sometimes cry. Yes.
That's their group name.
That's their group name.
The men who sometimes cry. We were going to do like a Monty Python Dracula. Someone else pointed out, like, this book's called Dracula. It should be called Lucy.
We spent a lot of time there.
Yeah. Honestly, if we were going that route, I mean, it might as well just be called Seward.
He is like the main character, isn't he?
Yeah. Instead of Dracula, it could just be the unconventional adventures of John Seward.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been his book for a hot minute.
I think it's weird how Bram Stoker writes. I don't know. I feel like Jonathan and oh my god, I can't think of her name now.
His wife?
Yeah, Mina.
Yeah.
I wanted to call her Mira. It wasn't Mina. Like, he kind of seemed like, you know, our main character at first, and then he just kind of disappeared. And then Mina kind of seemed like, okay, now we're going to kind of follow her as our main character. Makes sense, you know, her connection with Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And now it just seems like they both disappeared. They showed up for a second, and now they're just gone again. It's very weird how their interactions are within the story.
Do you think they're going to come back?
I hope so. Otherwise, what's the point? Or maybe they're just like, we're rich now. We don't want to deal with you people. Your problems are your problems.
I mean, I could spoil it. Oh.
Jonathan gonna come back and get out his PTSD. Just start hacking away. But, oh, so you're telling me I gotta cut off Dracula's head stab him a few times and stuff his mouth with garlic, I'm in.
I'm in. I got this.
Or maybe it's just going to turn out to be that Jonathan's actually a vampire the whole time. Under Dracula's spell, and Dracula's just playing the long game.
Dun dun dun.
And Van Helsing is also his pawn.
Oh. And Renfield.
And he actually never liked Lucy.
He didn't love her at all. And Renfield is really the only sane one in the entire story.
Yes, Renfield's going to save the day.
Yeah. Oh, Renfield. Yeah, Dr. Seward is just like...
He's the guy.
He's like the guy.
I think it's a good choice for the narrator, though, because he's kind of the logical one. It's like how everyone would think, you know? I mean, most people, they hear, oh, there's a vampire on the loose.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a room for you at my asylum. Come on.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very comfy. You not only get one bed, but you get mattresses all over the place. Sleep wherever you want.
He is the, like, modern man of science guy up against the older metaphysical
Yeah.
not like the man of science, but versus the man of faith, but kind of that.
Yeah, because Van Helsing's kind of a splice of the two. He's a man of science, but he ventures into the paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah.
The pseudoscience.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I like the accent I picked for him, because I just kind of picked it on a whim, not
For
really.
Van Helsing?
No, Seward, because now it's just straight up Jon Snow for 90% of the story.
I don't know. Whose voice would you have rather?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't think Jon Snow when I started to read it. I just went with let's make him sound like he's from like a little bit north. And now I'm like, I don't know if that was a good decision. I don't know. Probably just
Well, John, we have to kill Dracula. I don't want it.
I mean, I
don't want the responsibility.
I guess it does fit then. And it fits.
Someone else can do it.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we got more of the
Action.
Yeah, definitely that. But definitely, I'm glad the whole
stuff happened.
I'm actually kind of glad the whole Lucy thing is over.
Yeah.
Kind of had enough of Lucy. Like, bring back Dracula. Come on.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. Yeah, because we're now like more than halfway through the book.
Yeah.
And it's been
like, I don't think the whole section with Lucy was bad, but it's definitely ran its course.
Could have been shorter a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it could have been shorter.
Definitely could have gone back a couple chapters and just, if Van Helsing had stopped speaking in riddles.
Well, and do we have to see every single blood transfusion go the same exact way?
Yeah, that's true too.
We must do a transfusion of the blood. I need a strong young man.
Next time on Dracula, we need another blood transfusion.
We must find a strong young man to do it. Repeat 2 more times after the first 2 times. And in between which, oh, Lucy's better. Oh, she's really not.
Lucky that Lucy had all these strong young men lined up.
Yep.
Otherwise,
The book
I mean,
could have been shorter.
Mina, if she did it, it would have just been Jonathan, and then it's over.
True.
And at this point, can you even call him a strong man?
Yeah, I don't.
He's a broken man.
He's a broken man.
He's been through some shit.
But he's rich.
But he's rich.
So there's that. So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, they're going to have to find Dracula.
How are they going to find him?
They're going to finally let Renfield out and follow him.
They're going to it's a Renfield thing. Let Renfield out.
Gonna let him go and track him and
See where he goes.
Gonna go right to Dracula.
I mean, he went there twice, though.
Well, yeah, but
Just brought him back every time.
still.
I'm just
I
saying,
mean, gotta be sure.
let him out a third time.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, that's your
it'll
theory.
make Drax feel like more comfortable.
So that's your current theory, is that we're going to use Renfield to track Dracula. That's what's happening next. Okay.
Like a bloodhound.
Okay.
And then they're going to stab Dracula multiple times. Chop off his head, stuff his mouth full of garlic. You know, if they're undead, so does that mean, like, they do chop off their head and everything? Are they... Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, Van Helsing did say that they were dead. I was just thinking, or are they just gonna, like, be a head forever? Just starving, reeking of garlic?
No, they're dead. Unless, like, maybe headless.
Yeah.
And then maybe they're not dead. That being said, though, do you have anything else to add?
No, that was about it.
Yeah, I don't think I really...
There's probably more. I'm just tired.
Same. I mean, I feel like we could probably talk more. This was just kind of like, okay, the action has happened. Lucy is over. Let's move on to the next part of the story, please and thank you.
Get some Dracula action.
Yeah, let's get the mans in here.
Or maybe they're going to bring Jonathan back and they're going to use him as bait.
Who knows?
Or maybe Jonathan, like I said, maybe he is under Dracula's spell and Dracula is just playing 4D chess.
See. I guess we will find out tomorrow when we read more.
Okay. Oh, we are streaming tomorrow? Okay. Just want to make sure.
It's Sunday night
I know.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think probably can.
Yeah.
All right, so for tonight, good night. We will see everybody Sunday for more Dracula.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a lovely evening, everybody.